What up, YouTube? Flash Peaks back for another video. I mean, what can you say? Philadelphia Eagles making moves, man. What can you say? I'm not going to lie to you. I was one of the biggest doubters. I was down on the Philadelphia Eagles real hard, real bad at the end of last year. Because I'm a big culture guy. I'm a big guy that's into like the intangibles, right? I'm not all just about the stats and everything. And I'm not going to say I'm done a complete 180 on everything, but what I will say is we won't go into this season with the same team as far as personnel goes. It's still going to take me a minute, to believe in Nick Sirianni. He's going to have to kind of show me what he brings to the table specifically, as a coach. I'm still looking to see that what mark he puts on the team, especially like when things are not going well, what he could do. I'm not able to measure it, so that's sort of a problem for me. But besides that, listen, if Nick Fangio is just marginally better than Gannon and Desai, if he's just marginally better, and you figure he has to be, since he's the guy that pretty much orchestrated their defense, he's the mastermind behind it. It's like you went and you got Don Coryell, or you went and got Bill Walsh versus, say, Andy Reid. He's the guy that invented it. You gotta give it a shot, see what happens. All the questions. Running the ball, DeAndre Swift, what we were going to do with him. Upgraded at running back. The offensive line, somewhat of a question mark, but at the same time, I'm assuming they're going to put Cam Jurgens in there because he was drafted 2 years ago for that purpose. You now aren't looking at Cam Jurgens as a guy who he's not a complete question mark. We know what he can do. We know he can play. So it's just a matter of whether or not he can handle that center position at the level Jason Kelce could. Jason Kelce, what you're going to miss, though, is his intelligence, his ability to read defenses, the aid that he can give Jalen Hurts in that area. You know what I mean? That's probably what you'll be missing. But from a standpoint of an athlete, Cam Jurgens, I know he's the best mimic you can have of Jason Kelce. You're talking about a guy that can get to the second level fast, and if necessary, you can get to the third level of the defense and open those holes up for, a running back the caliber of a Saquon Barkley. You know what I mean? And listen, I'm a Barkley fan for real, bro. Penn State, that's my college team. I used to argue back then that he was better than Zeke. When Zeke was at Ohio State, he was getting all the hoorah and everything. And I was trying to tell guys, man, like this guy right here, Saquon Barkley's better than Dalvin Cook and Zeke, and I believe that still. I still believe that. He was there in New York, and that debacle, of an organization, at least right now, they just haven't been able to put together an offensive line that would actually complement a guy or facilitate what you need to get the best out of a guy like a Saquon Barkley. They're lost without that whole Bill Parcells, Tom Coughlin. They're just lost without those guys. We'll see what happens with them, but sorry, Giants. We're going to show y'all how to do it with this dude. We're going to show y'all how that's done. All right? And then we move to the defensive side of the ball, which was my main concern. And for me, even last year, there was something more to it than just lack of talent for me. Like, lack of talent to me is the easy cop-out, when you're talking about a defensive line that prior to last year put up historic numbers, over 70 sacks in a season, and that's not even counting the number of pressures. That's not counting the number of plays they made behind the line of scrimmage that, stop running plays and all of the different things that a defensive line does. To drop from that to what we had last year where the team couldn't even get 40 sacks, I don't believe. Forgive me for not looking at the numbers, but I don't even think they got 40 sacks. There's more to it. There's something more going on there, than just losing Javon Hargrave. Because really, if you take away Javon Hargrave's 11 sacks from that 70 sack season, the Philadelphia Eagles would still have had more double digit sacks than the team that came in second place, the 49ers, that year. So something major was going on. For some reason, at some point in the season, those guys in that secondary and really all over that defense just were weak-minded individuals who couldn't battle out of it. After giving that a lot of thought, I came to the conclusion that the Philadelphia Eagles did in fact suffer a Super Bowl hangover. I really do believe that. There was a Super Bowl hangover that came as a result of getting to the Super Bowl the previous year and losing. Typically what happens with those teams the next year, they don't perform as well. Now, we were under the impression that the Philadelphia Eagles hadn't suffered from it because we didn't really see the lingering effects of it. Well, we did see lingering effects of it, but we didn't see the total collapse to the point where we could prove they really having a hangover until the last 6 weeks of the year. I think it just did the opposite. It kind of kicked in at the end of the year. Typically with teams, you'll find it in the beginning of the season. Now, it was there in the beginning of the season, and nobody could quite put their hand on it. Like even A.J. Brown to this day, when asked about it when he was on WIP, he just can't, nobody can kind of give an answer, So they start looking for stuff. They start making up stuff about guys messing with other guys' wives and guys not getting along and lack of leadership and all of that. And so now you have a guy in Jalen Hurts who was seen as the best young leader quarterback in the league, at least top three. I mean, you want to count Mahomes and guys like that, Burrow, guys like that, I get it, right? So he goes from this caliber of a leader to all of a sudden now we got all these questions about whether or not he's a leader or he should be vocal and all of this kind of stuff, right? All of that to me is just attempts to try to figure out what the problem was. And honestly, I believe the problem was a number of things. Number one, it was the Super Bowl hangover. And number two, having a young head coach who is a question mark. But you know what? For now, I'll chalk it up to the young head coach, Nick Sirianni, being in this position for the first time, not quite knowing how to handle it. Because even Doug Peterson, if you remember, didn't handle it well the year after the Super Bowl, even though the Eagles were victorious. He didn't really handle it well the next year. He didn't quite know what to do. Should I treat these guys like they accomplished nothing? Should I call them champions and think that motivates them? And I think he went the route of calling them champions. I heard there were rumblings about putting a photograph of Nick Foles holding the Lombardi up in the locker room and things like that, which bothered guys like Malcolm Jenkins, right? We had rumblings of that. So I think Nick Sirianni may have been suffering from some of that. But I tell you what, Howie Roseman is definitely so far so good doing his part. He's definitely doing his part. We've upgraded the running back position. And that secondary, one by one, we're starting to get rid of those weak guys. Those guys were weak-minded. Those guys just weren't there mentally. So we got Fletcher Cox who left. It was about that time, I suppose. Brandon Graham decided to stay around for one more year. That's good because, you could use that wisdom in the locker room. And if he has something in the tank, sure, why not? Put him out there in a limited role doesn't bother me at all. Also, we still got Nolan Smith coming back. I don't know what's going on with Hassan Reddick. I really hope Hassan Reddick is there this year. I would just pay him. I don't get what the problem is. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles do have the money. They're out here signing guys left and right. We got the guy from the Jets, so I'm happy to see. But now I'm just looking at, it looks like Josh Sweat was just restructured. I don't know what the particulars of it is. I don't know if he's got more money here, less money here. I don't really know how that worked, but it looks like he's going to be here. I don't have a problem with that, but Hassan Reddick is really the guy that I don't want to see go. And then if you have money to pay him, I don't see why You wouldn't at least meet him halfway. Give him a little something. Restructure it. That's what I really want to see happen. The guy from the Jets, I'm happy we got him. Now, I do have a few questions about the defense. Are we going to go with a 4-3 or 3-4? Stuff like that. I guess these things remain to be seen. It's no real rush, but, we'll deal with that when we get there. Chauncey Gardener Johnson. Probably the one signing that I'm most excited about. Him and Saquon, we about equal. They're equal time with that. But for me, he was the best player in that back seven that year we went to the Super Bowl. That whole back seven, he was the best player. I said it then. If you go back to my videos, and I'm saying it now. Better than Slade, better than Bradbury. Chauncey Gardener Johnson was the best player on that whole back seven. Okay? That includes the linebackers and the secondary, man. And then Howie Roseman caps it off. Devin White. Got a young guy, speed, sideline speed, put in a system that I think works for him perfectly. I can't find anything to criticize and to critique. I am going to do a video on some of the reactions that the media have been putting out. I think media, by and large, are a disgrace and ridiculous. But people are entitled to their opinion. It's fine. But we heard Chris Canty earlier, talking about Jalen Hurts and how he said that Jalen Hurts, because of what he saw last year, is not a top 10 quarterback in the league. And he put people like the likes of Trevor Lawrence ahead of him, and guys the likes of, it was one other ridiculous name he put ahead of him, and and Brock Purdy, put Brock Purdy ahead of Jalen Hurts, and it just makes you wonder about these guys, how sad and silly these guys are, the way they judge quarterbacks and everything. And me, I don't get involved in it. That's why I don't. But this is why when I made my last video about the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, I was saying that this is why Jalen Hurts can never be considered an overrated player. I don't care if you put him at 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. He's never overrated because Jalen Hurts is the type of quarterback that doesn't gain equity with most people, with most commentators. They don't believe in him in terms of just who he is as a man, as a talent. Definitely not, right? They're more interested in physical attributes as if they're looking to go on a date with a guy, more so than what a guy actually brings to the table. Jalen Hurts is a guy that I'm not worried about at all, unlike some of the local media. I'm listening to this guy, Joe Giglio, and the question is Jalen Hurts, this is what they're talking about. After we signed Devin White, and we bring in Chauncey Gardener Johnson, the question is the jury still out on Jalen Hurts? How the hell is the jury out on a guy like Jalen Hurts, who every year that he started, you got to the playoffs, right? And don't give me because of this stacked roster and stacked teams and all of that. No, Jalen Hurts showed you. First of all, me personally, I liked him his rookie year when, Carson Wentz went out and he came in. He beat the Saints, almost beat the Cardinals. Would have beat the Washington Commanders if it wasn't for us, tanking on purpose. And I forgot the other team we played. But I think he was either 2-2 or 1-3, whatever it was that first year. I saw the potential there because when I look at rookies, I'm looking for potential. I'm looking for what's here. I'm looking for mental mistakes, mental errors. I'm looking for poise. I'm not looking for a guy that already mastered the game of football, already mastered every single defensive coverage and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not looking for that. I think that's ridiculous when we do that type of stuff. And young guys, I'm telling you, haven't mastered all of the defenses. And that doesn't mean that a guy can't read a defense. There's a difference between being able to read a defense and beating a defense. Just because it's possible to read a defense and know exactly what the defense is in and still lose because you can read it don't mean you're going to win. Because winning against a defense, factors. It factors in a number of things besides the quarterback. It also factors in the wide receivers, also factors in the linemen, also factors in all of those different things and everyone doing their job in order to beat a particular coverage. But the first thing we want to do is when the offense loses is go to this idea that the quarterback, you can't read the defense. And that's because most of you are laymen who don't even know what the hell you're looking at and you're just talking. Okay? And I don't even get into arguments with that stuff because that's just a waste of my time. All right? It's just silliness. All right? Jalen Hurts puts in way too much time in the film room to not be able to read defenses. He goes around and he actually quizzes his wide receivers on whether or not they know the coverages and how to respond to coverages and all these different types of things. And trust me, the Philadelphia Eagles brass are not going to give that type of money to a guy who can't read defenses. Okay? It's just not that simple. And you should stop thinking things are that simple. Jalen Hurts is a guy that we've already seen in year 2, in his first year as a starter, who took a team that had no business in the playoffs to the playoffs, a team with a rookie Devontae Smith, a team with Quez Watkins as a number 2 receiver. In the slot, I forgot who the hell we were putting in the slot, actually. Okay? A young Goddard and Ertz, or I think Ertz left early in that year. Okay? But this was the first year of him as a starter with a horrible play caller in Nick Sirianni, who later shifted to Shea Steichen at some point in the season. And then Jalen Hurts, helps to carry that team and lead that team to the playoffs. And it was really that year that he gained the trust and the confidence of the organization and of the brass and then of the players like Jason Kelce and guys like that who decided, they would stick around because they believed that they saw something in this young guy. So now after a campaign like last year, all of a sudden now, he's not even a top 10 quarterback to some of these guys, man. And you got a Trevor Lawrence who had a worse year than Jalen Hurts last year by pretty much every metric. You try to say he a better quarterback. You got a guy like Brock Purdy that everybody knows is extremely limited, and all he does is just check. He's the check down. He's the definition of a check down Charlie. And a guy who just passes to a loaded team with loaded guys all over the place. Can't win a damn thing with one of those guys is out. This is what we saw. Now, Jalen Hurts not as good as him, according to some guys. Right? But I love it because I know that this puts a guy like Jalen Hurts in the situation you want him in. He thrives in this situation when everybody thinks he sucks and everybody thinks he's just overrated or everybody thinks that he is just, the beneficiary of having a great team around him. That's when he comes and plays his best, and that's when he makes everybody look stupid. That's what he loves to do. That's what he thrives in. You know what I mean? So I can't wait to see this, man. I can't wait to see this. And I'm interested in seeing what we do in the draft now because there aren't that many glaring needs. We do got to get rid of both of these cornerbacks. And yes, I said both of them. I know Darius Slay is just good enough to play and all of that, but no. I want to move on from Darius Slay. James Bradbury, there's no way in the world you can come into this season with him on the roster. You just can't. Whatever money you lose or whatever, you just going to have to eat that. Whatever. But you have to show a standard that, no, we just don't accept certain levels of play. That's what you have to do, to send a message to the rest of the team. You can't just get beat like a drum every week and still start for this football team or still be on this football team. We don't accept that, and you were a nice guy, but here are your walking papers. That's the way you have to approach that. And then Darius Slay, it was a good little run here, man. You got to get to the Super Bowl, so on, but I think you got to move on. Put some of them young guys in there. I think Keely Ringo should have one of them slots. And I think it would not be a bad idea to go draft a cornerback like this guy Kool-Aid everybody's talking about. Well, I need to do some research on, but I'm kind of going based off of what everybody's saying at this moment. I might actually find a cornerback better than him. I'm going to do the research on that. But I wouldn't be mad if you get a top-flight cornerback to go along with Keely Ringo, right? And then we just going to need a slot. I wouldn't mind bringing back Avonte Maddox, or if you go find a slot corner somewhere, I'm with that. And then you got Chauncey, and then my second safety would absolutely be Sidney Brown. Though I don't know if he's going to be ready to play week 1, and if he's not, you got Reed Blankenship for the moment. I think you can survive with him for the moment until Sidney Brown is ready to go in there and take the job. So if Vic Fangio is, worth his weight in salt, he should have a lot to work with. We should be looking for a much improved defense. If you could at least be a top 15, top 10 defense with this offensive firepower that we have, the Philadelphia Eagles should be back in the Super Bowl. I expect Jalen Hurts to go out there and show who he is and win MVP this year. You got a Saquon Barkley. If we make sure we show him any possible holes on the offensive line, I see no reason why the Philadelphia Eagles should not be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. We definitely shouldn't be getting stopped by the 49ers and the Cowboys, please. They have their own problems in there, a multitude of problems they have over there. The Detroit Lions might have something to say about it, so will the Green Bay Packers. But I still think, we are the superior team to those guys, point blank when it comes down to it, all things, after they're all said and done. And we should go out there and handle our business, man. You know what I mean? And I'll be back real soon to talk about whatever else we do. You know what I mean? Feels good to be back at it. Peace.